What's good with it, Black Goose TV family, man? Double salute as always. It's your boy Fluence Boxing back in the building again with some more Fluence Boxing news. Look, happy Wednesday to the people. What are we going to be talking about tonight? We'll pay attention and you're going to learn something. I promise you that. As you can see over here, as you can see in the title below, we're talking about Chris Eubank Jr. We're talking about Conor Benn. I know y'all probably asking, why are you talking about Chris Eubank Jr.? Why are you talking about Conor Benn? That fight got called off. Conor Benn is a drug cheat, even though supposedly, according to Eddie Hearn, he's still trying to make that fight happen next year in the summer. As we all know, Chris Eubank Jr. is going to be fighting Liam Smith. I believe it's December, like towards the end of December. So, one, I'm going to be talking about this because Chris Eubank Jr. does have a fight coming up with Liam Smith. Two, I'm going to be talking about this because Eddie Hearn is alluding to the fact that he's still going to try to make this fight happen next year. And then three, I'm talking about this because Chris Eubank Jr. never necessarily spoke about the failed drug test of Conor Benn. He kind of lightheartedly or, he gave a very, very brief statement on what he felt the situation was because I think he was in a position where he really wanted the fight to happen. He really wanted the fight to pull through. So I think he was just being very choice with his words at the time when he was asked about it. And rather than, being very expressive and detailed about how he felt about the situation, he kind of like shrugged it off, pushed it to the side. And he said, hey, look, Conor Benn, even though I never talked to Conor Benn, he's telling people he did. We're going to just wait. Let's wait until the next sample comes out. I still want this fight. I want the fight to happen. So he never really specifically spoke on it, kind of gave us a vague answer because I think at the time he still wanted the fight to happen. And I don't blame him at all for that. But of course, now fast forward to where we are now. Conor Benn came, his B sample has came out. It has actually not been reported that much throughout the boxing community, but his B sample came out negative as well. As we all know too, he actually pulled one of his he pulled one of his licenses so that B sample wouldn't actually be exposed or put out there, and where basically when it matters, so he wouldn't get suspended. But we'll get into the details, man. Y'all see, I got the article here, so I'm gonna, hopefully the article is detailing a lot of things that I'm saying and I'm kind of vaguely, briefly going over. But the whole point of this particular video is that we hear what Chris Eubank Jr. has to say on the whole situation, since we haven't necessarily heard him say anything in long format regarding to how he feels about Conor Benn testing positive, the fight being canceled, etc. So this is what this video is going to be about. I can't wait to get into it because I've been waiting myself for a long time to hear what Conor Benn what Chris Eubank has to say on Conor Benn failed drug test. And I wonder if he's going to speak on, possibly Eddie Hearn alluding to trying to make the fight happen again next year, and if he'll be open to that. So as y'all know, before I get into the details of this, go ahead, hit the like button below, subscribe to the channel, show some love to your boy. As always, notification gang, check out the Twitch, Fluence TV. You already know what it is. But let's go ahead. Just coming from boxingscene.com. Chris Eubank on Benn's second positive drug test. I was like, wow. So he lied. Let's get into this. Chris Eubank Jr. was all for giving Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. was all for giving Conor Benn the benefit of the doubt when it was first revealed to him that he tested positive for a banned substance ahead of their projected 157-pound catchweight bout in October. Whatever feelings of homie and charity Eubank had for his embattled rival, very interesting choice of vocabulary, however, went out the window after he learned Benn had tested positive for the same substance on another occasion earlier this year. In a recent interview, Eubank opened up about the initial conversation he had with Benn after he was informed by his handlers that Benn had tested positive for clomiphene, a fertility drug that, when used by men, boosts testosterone levels and can be used as a masking agent. Eddie Hearn, Benn's promoter, and Kali Sutherland, Eubank's promoter, learned of the positive test results roughly 2 weeks before the scheduled October 8th fight. There's also, some evidence. Me personally, I did a video where Eddie Hearn actually alluded to knowing about the positive test even before then, almost a month to 2 months before. But that's all allegedly. I'm just going off of what Eddie Hearn let slip out of his own mouth. Who knows how accurate it was. Given the impression that they were trying to keep the results under wraps and move forward with the event. The fight was eventually canceled after the British Boxing Board of Control refused to sanction the bout. And as we all know, Conor Benn ultimately decided to give up his license with the British Boxing Board of Control so that B sample won't come out. But allegedly, the rumor mill was going around the B sample was dirty as well. Eubank, in addition, clarified erroneous reports during fight week that he had spoken to Benn on Wednesday morning when the Daily Mail had first published his findings regarding Benn's positive test. Eubank himself, at the time, was still willing to move forward with the fight. The media outlets, were trying to say that Benn called me that morning, and that's not true, Eubank told IFL TV. We spoke about 10 days before, and then we spoke. It was like we spoke about 10 days before, and when we spoke, it was like Benn said, all right, this has happened, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. I said, you better, for your sake. I told him this is the worst thing that can ever happen to any fighter's career. So for your sake, I hope you can figure it out, because if not, that's it. he was crying. He was kind of trying to say, "Oh well, I don't know how this happened. We're going to get to the bottom of this. I didn't really know what to say." And then obviously, I found out about the second failed drug test, and I was like, "Wow." So he lied. The Sun reported that the second positive drug test occurred earlier on July 25th and was carried out by the same testing organization. Okay, so this is what Eddie Hearn was alluding to, and that's why I was allegedly saying they learned about the test before, the 2 weeks before the fight happening, because apparently he had tested positive for a drug, the same drug, in July 25th. Obviously, we all knew this fight was still, in the works for it to happen. I think actually Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank was originally scheduled to happen in the summer, if I believe correctly. Then it got pushed toward later in the year. So, but let's go back. So the Sun reported that the second positive drug test occurred earlier on July 25th and was carried out by the same testing organization, that widely respected voluntary anti-doping agency, VADA, in other words. Benn, who admitted he failed 2 tests, has since accused the board of being biased against him. Benn has also relinquished his boxing license, a move that has been regarded as something of an admission of guilt. Benn is reportedly involved in a hearing with the BBB, which will determine whether or not he is guilty. A guilty verdict would mean Benn could be banned from boxing for up to 4 years. So they actually still haven't gave him his suspension. So I didn't know he was still basically involved in a hearing with the BBOC, and they haven't decided if he's guilty or not. So that's interesting. For Eubank, a non-guilty verdict would not change much about he or the public views of Benn. In Eubank's view, Benn is now branded with a scarlet letter. When you fail 2, which is apparently what he has done, it's hard to believe anything that is not hands up. I'm sorry, Eubank said. Even if that is the case, even if there's a non-guilty verdict, he's still guilty. In the eyes of the people, the public, that asterisk, that stain is always next to his name and on his name. It doesn't matter how much money you pay for your lawyers and for your defense team and your scientists. You got caught cheating. That's the public opinion that will never change. The 33-year-old Eubank is gearing up for a middleweight fight against Liam Smith on January 21st at Manchester Arena in Manchester, England. So I was a little wrong about the Liam Smith versus Eubank date. I thought it was for December. It's for January, so it's only about a month and 21 days away. So with that being said, that was the first time I was able to, me personally, read anything, dissect anything, look at anything when it came to full detail on how Chris Eubank Jr. felt about Conor Benn failing. It seemed like Chris Eubank was optimistic at first. I even felt like even if Conor Benn would have, came back and they found out he failed that drug test 2 weeks before, but maybe necessarily there wasn't a previous drug test, just months behind it that he failed. If it was just that one drug test that he failed, I think Chris Eubank Jr., obviously there would still be that scarlet letter, like you said, the asterisk next to his name. People look at him a certain way, but I do think there would still be a big possibility for Eubank and Conor Benn to still have a fight next year. But after learning about that second drug test, it's like, yeah, he's right. That's how a majority of people are going to see him in the boxing community, whether the BBB of C says, hey, you're innocent, we're not going to ban you, you're good to go. You can resume fighting, or if they end up banning them, either way, in court of public opinion, man, they're going to look at him and say you're cheat. So I don't even know where Conor Benn's career goes from here, where it can go from here. One guy I think of, obviously a little bit different. He's been popped a little bit more, but Big Baby Miller, I remember Big Baby Miller was making his return last year after a long suspension because he got caught using PEDs on multiple occasions. He was all geared up. He was all gassed up. He took, I think, three fights last year, all against people we didn't know about, all in places we didn't know about, because he said, hey, yo, I'm getting back in shape. I'm getting back in shape by fighting in the ring. And next year, I'm going to come out with a big bang. Well, as we know, man, nobody's talking about Big Baby Miller. I don't think anybody ever will talk about him again. So is that going to be the same path for Conor Benn? That's unfortunate. Big Baby Miller was older when it happened, so it was a little bit different. Conor Benn, he's only 25. He hasn't even hit his prime yet. So this will definitely keep him from a lot of things in the sport, and it's unfortunate. But I'm happy to hear Chris Eubank Jr.'s side of the game. I can't wait for that fight against Liam Smith. I think that's actually a pretty good fight. Let me know how you guys think about this particular subject, everything going on. Do you guys agree with Chris Eubank Jr.? Or do you disagree? I think majority is probably going to agree with I mean, the majority of people are going to look at Conor Benn a certain way. But either way it goes, man, show some love. Hit the like button below. Subscribe to the channel as always, man. Road to 5K for the end of the year. We're getting close to the end of the year. We ain't at 5K yet. So we ain't at 5K yet. We're going to still work on it. No matter. Much love to people, man. Stay blessed, not stressed. On the sports nigga side of the game. I'll be back, but with more box.